hadn't been back to my hometown in almost 2 years. After college started, life had a way of pulling me further away. Internships, exams, summer programs. But this time I had no excuse. Spring break hit, and when Tyler texted, "Stay here for a few days. Mom's out of town. Spare room's yours," I said yes before overthinking it. The drive back was familiar and eerie all at once. Same cracked sidewalks, same corner store, same breeze that smelled like damp trees and laundry vents. When I pulled up to the house, nothing had changed. The porch light still flickered. The same dent in the mailbox. The door swung open before I could even knock. "Dude, you made it," Tyler said, pulling me into a quick hug. "Place is the same. So are we. Come in." I stepped inside, and the smell hit me, like toasted bread and something floral. Not cologne, not perfume. Softer. And then I saw her. She was standing in the kitchen, back turned, pouring something into a mug. Her hair was longer now, dark, loose, slightly messy. She wore a fitted t-shirt, high-waisted joggers, barefoot, casual, but put together in a way that made it hard not to stare. She turned slowly when she heard us, and her eyes landed on me before her expression broke into a warm, surprised smile. "No way," she said. "You actually came." Her voice hadn't changed, but there was something in the way she looked at me. Direct, easy, calm. It unsettled me more than it should have. "Hey, Casey," I said, giving a small wave. "Been a while." She nodded, eyes scanning me quickly but not shyly. "You look different." "You don't," I replied, still making the kitchen smell like vanilla and coffee. She raised an eyebrow, smiled again, then held out the mug. "You want tea? I made too much." I took it from her, careful not to let our fingers brush, but I felt the air shift anyway. Tyler was already halfway down the hall talking about the Wi-Fi password, completely unaware of the current flowing between his sister and me. Casey and I used to barely talk. She was always a little older, 3 years ahead, cooler, more distant. But now that distance felt different. Not because she had changed, but because I had. Or maybe both of us had, in just the right ways. That first night, everything felt normal. Pizza on the coffee table, some dumb movie playing, Tyler complaining about his coworkers. But I kept catching glimpses. Casey curled up in the armchair with her legs tucked under her. The way she tilted her head when she laughed. How she sipped her drink with both hands around the mug. At one point, Tyler left to grab his charger upstairs, and it was just the two of us in the room. She looked over at me, the flicker of the TV dancing across her face. "You're quieter than I remember," she said. "Maybe I'm just watching more." Her lips curved slightly. "Watching what?" I almost said it, but I didn't. "Just the room. Feels good to be back." She held my gaze for a moment longer than she needed to, then nodded. "Yeah, it does." Tyler came back and flopped onto the couch, and the moment passed. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Later, in the guest room, I lay on the same bed I used to crash on during sleepovers. Same posters on the wall, same lamp, but everything felt different. My heartbeat was heavier. My head buzzed. I tried to tell myself it was just the comfort of coming home, the nostalgia. But that didn't explain the way Casey had looked at me, or the way I'd looked back. When I finally drifted off, it wasn't the sound of the movie or the hum of the house that stayed with me. It was her voice. "You look different." And the way she said it like it meant more than just appearances. The next morning was quiet. I woke up to sunlight creeping through the blinds and the faint smell of something toasting. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, but then I heard the clink of dishes. I threw on a t-shirt and made my way down the hall barefoot. Tyler wasn't around. Instead, Casey stood by the stove, hair up in a loose bun, wearing a faded band tee and athletic shorts. She was humming softly, back to me, stirring something in a pan. She glanced over her shoulder when she noticed me. "Morning," she said, casual, like I hadn't been thinking about her all night. "Smells good." Tyler ran out for bagels. "You're stuck with scrambled eggs until then." "I've had worse," I said, leaning against the doorway. She pointed to the cabinet. "Mugs are still in the same place." I poured myself some coffee and sat at the kitchen island while she plated food. Her movements were quick, confident, like this was her rhythm and I just walked into it. She set a plate in front of me and slid into the seat across from mine. We ate mostly in silence, just the sound of forks scraping, the occasional sip of coffee. But the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something else was in the room with us. She looked up at one point and caught me watching her. Again. "What?" she said, eyebrow raised. I shrugged. "Didn't think I'd be the only one up." She gave a half smile. "Old habits. I like the house better when it's quiet." "Me too." Our eyes held for a beat too long. The rest of the day moved slowly. Tyler wanted to show me a new skate spot on the edge of town, but I passed. I told him I was tired, still settling in. He didn't push. By early afternoon, I found myself back in the kitchen. Casey was wiping down the counters, music playing low from her phone. Something moody and slow, like a soundtrack for a film that hadn't been made yet. "You always this neat?" I asked. She looked up with a slight smirk. "You used to leave cereal bowls in the sink for days." That was Tyler. Sure it was. I grabbed a towel and started drying the dishes she washed. We moved around each other easily, shoulders brushing once or twice, neither of us stepping away. The air was warm, but not because of the weather. At one point, she passed me a plate and our fingers touched, just briefly, but neither of us said anything. Later, she sat at the table sketching something in a notebook while I scrolled mindlessly through my phone. Should have felt boring, but it didn't. She glanced up once and caught me watching again. "You're doing it again," she said. I blinked. "Doing what?" "That look." "What look?" "Like you're trying to figure something out." "Maybe I am." She leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. "Well, let me know if you come to any conclusions." Her tone was playful, but something else flickered behind it. Something slower, deeper. That evening, Tyler made dinner. Burgers, chips, beers from the fridge. We ate outside, talked about old times, laughed a lot, but I kept noticing Casey. The way she curled her hair behind one ear. The way she looked at me when she thought no one was watching. After we finished eating, Tyler got a call from work. Some scheduling mess. He disappeared inside, muttering about spreadsheets and Wi-Fi passwords. I stayed behind to clear the plates. Casey walked past me, grabbed the last beer and said, "Let's leave the mess. For now." We sat back down at the patio table. The sun was low now, everything bathed in amber light. A warm breeze moved through the trees, brushing the edge of her shirt against her skin. She leaned back in her chair, sipping slowly, eyes half closed. "You seem different," she said quietly. "From what?" "From before. From who you used to be." "Maybe I am. College'll do that to people." "And what about you?" I asked. "You've changed too." She smiled into her bottle. "Yeah." I nodded. "You're more here. I don't know. More real." She turned her head toward me, expression unreadable. "That a good thing?" "It is to me." The breeze shifted again. We sat in the thick silence that followed. Not awkward, not empty, just full of everything neither of us had said. And in that silence, I felt it again. That pull. The space between us was shrinking, and both of us knew it. The house was quiet again. Tyler had gone out. Something about meeting up with an old teammate from high school. Said he wouldn't be long. Casey and I stayed behind, pretending not to notice that we were suddenly alone. The sun had dipped below the horizon, and the only light came from the low-hanging fixture above the kitchen table. It cast a soft gold hue across the room, catching the edges of wine glasses and the curve of her collarbone. We were finishing dinner, just leftovers, reheated. Casey had opened a bottle of red wine without asking. I said yes without hesitation. Now we sat at opposite ends of the table, the quiet stretching between us like a string pulled tight. She spun her glass slowly by the stem. I traced a finger around mine. "You're quiet again," she said, not looking up. "So are you." She finally glanced at me. "I don't usually have company I actually like." I didn't reply, just let the words hang. She sipped her wine, then stood up slowly and walked around the table toward the sink. Her steps were unhurried, but deliberate. The way she moved, it was like she knew the effect it had. She rinsed her glass, set it aside, and wiped her hands on a towel. Then, without turning around, she said, "Can you help me with something?" "Sure." She looked over her shoulder. "Come here." I stood, unsure why my pulse had quickened. I crossed the room and stepped beside her, close enough to see the tiny freckles on her shoulder, the soft curve where her neck met her jaw. She turned to face me. "Here," she said, reaching for my hand. I froze as her fingers wrapped around mine. Lightly, no force, just presence. She guided my hand toward a cabinet drawer. "Pull," she whispered. I did. Inside, nothing but dish towels. She didn't move. I looked at her, and that's when she said it. "Don't pretend you didn't feel it too." My breath caught. She was so close now I could smell the faint trace of vanilla and something citrusy. Her eyes held mine, steady, searching. No games, no teasing, just truth. I didn't answer right away, because I couldn't. I didn't know how. "I did," I said finally, voice low. "I do." A flicker passed across her face, relief, maybe, or maybe it was confirmation. She didn't drop my hand. If anything, her grip tightened just a little. "I wasn't going to say anything," she said. "I thought maybe I was imagining it." "You weren't." She nodded slowly. "I didn't mean for this to happen," I added. "But it did," she replied. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, like the walls had moved in a few inches. My skin buzzed, not from nerves but from awareness. Of her. Of this. Her thumb brushed over my knuckles, absent-mindedly, thoughtfully. Then she said, "Tyler has no idea." "I know. And this doesn't have to mean anything, right?" she asked, but her voice faltered at the end. "I don't know what it means," I said, "but I know it's not nothing." Her eyes softened. She leaned slightly against the counter, and I followed without thinking. We were inches apart now, her hand still in mine. "I don't usually do this," she whispered. "Me neither. I mean, not with friends of my brother." I almost laughed, but the tension in my chest made it come out more like a breath. A long, slow silence settled over us. Then she looked down at our hands. "I shouldn't have said anything," she murmured, "but I'm glad you did." She looked back up. Her eyes searched mine again, but this time not for doubt, for permission, for grounding. I nodded barely. Her other hand came up and touched my wrist. Light, careful. And then she stepped back. Just a step, but it felt like a mile. "I'm gonna clean up," she said, quieter now, "before Tyler gets back." I nodded again. Neither of us moved. Not really, because everything had already moved between us. Something had shifted in the space, and we both knew it wasn't going back. The next morning came slower than I expected. I woke to soft light pushing its way through the curtains and the distant sound of birds outside the window. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then the details came back. The old ceiling fan above me, the unfamiliar mattress, the faint scent of laundry detergent that wasn't mine. And then Casey, the kitchen, her voice. "Don't pretend you didn't feel it too." I sat up slowly. The air felt heavier, though nothing had changed physically. The room was still the same, but something inside it had shifted. I dressed quietly and made my way down the hall. The closer I got to the kitchen, the more I felt it, that tension. Not sharp, not awkward, just there. She was already at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. Her hair was in a loose braid over one shoulder. She wore an oversized beige sweater that fell just below her hips and no shoes. When she heard me step in, she turned, but not quickly. Her eyes found mine with that same quiet focus from the night before. "Morning," she said. Her voice was calm, natural, like always, but the way she said it was different. "Hey," I replied, sitting at the table. She slid a mug toward me. I took it, nodding a quiet thanks. We both sipped without speaking. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room. Outside, a car door slammed. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Normal life. But this wasn't normal. I watched her out of the corner of my eye. Her expression was neutral, but her hands gave her away. She kept adjusting the edge of her sleeve, rolling it up, rolling it back down. Little movements, nervous ones. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to break whatever fragile thing hung between us. Not yet. "You sleep okay?" she asked eventually. I nodded. "Yeah. You?" "I did," she said, then added, after a pause, "Eventually." We sipped again. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed loosely now. "Tyler's still out?" I asked. "Went for a run. Said he'd be back in 20. Right?" Another pause. "I meant what I said," she murmured suddenly, not looking at me. I looked up. "Last night." She nodded. "I know. I didn't say it to scare you, or to complicate things. You didn't." She turned her head then and finally met my eyes. "You're not who you used to be," she said. "I noticed that the second you walked in the door." I didn't answer right away. My throat felt dry. "And I'm not who I was either," she continued. "I guess that's what made it hard to ignore." I set my mug down carefully. "I wasn't trying to start anything." "I know," she said. "But something started anyway." Silence again, quieter kind. Then the front door clicked. Tyler's voice came from the hall. "Yo, I grabbed bagels." Casey straightened, tucked her hair behind her ear, and smiled lightly, rehearsed but not fake. "In the kitchen," she called back. He stepped in a second later, cheeks red from the wind, earbuds still around his neck. He tossed a paper bag onto the table, nodded at me. "You sleep in or just hide from me?" "A little of both." He grinned, popped the fridge open. I looked at Casey. She was already putting the bagels on a plate, acting like nothing was different. But I knew, and she knew. When Tyler sat down between us, the spell broke, but only for him. We were still in it, Casey and I, locked in something quiet and private and unspoken. After breakfast, I packed up my bag. I hadn't planned to leave so soon, but part of me knew I needed space. Not distance, just breath. Tyler gave me a quick hug at the door. "You sure you don't want to stay another night?" "Next time," I said. He stepped back inside, leaving the door cracked open behind him. Casey walked me out to the porch. The air was warmer now, full of that early spring scent. Wet soil, waking trees, leftover chill. She stopped near the railing, arms folded gently. I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen, she said. I don't want you to. We stood there for a moment, not touching, not moving, just holding the space between us. Will I see you again? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, you will. She smiled. This time it wasn't careful or practiced. It was small, real. Good. I stepped down the stairs, my bag over my shoulder, and just before I turned to leave, she said my name. I looked back. Casey was still standing there, arms loose now, eyes steady on mine. She didn't say anything else. She didn't have to. Whatever this was, it had already begun. And it wasn't over.